Harry Potter with our host, Greg Sharp. Now, Greg, this is all about Greg now, so it'll be a shorter one because Greg is very humble, but he has a very interesting resume, which we talked about on the Storehouse Media Group podcast. But, Greg, we're going to dive deeper into this about your athletic prowess to your entrepreneur prowess. Let's take us back to, before you were an arm wrestler, professional arm wrestler, you were a college football player. So that's where it all started, right?
It was, yeah. I mean, and this could be your shortest podcast because I like to say that my life is kind of a short story. It's over before it started.
I don't agree with
Uh,
that at all. It's
but
just beginning with the whole entrepreneur thing. You've no
well,
idea. You'll be on the red carpets and who knows, but go continue.
that's all right. I mean, I run a vacuum as good as anybody else. So, I started playing football at a young age, and obviously, every young person's quest, if they're an athlete, is to get into professional sports. I thought coming out of high school, albeit I wasn't necessarily in my prime as an athlete, I was tall, I was growing, I had some good speed under my feet, and I played center. Ended up getting recruited by multiple Division I schools. Landed at Cornell, and an interesting reason why. Originally, sadly, Coach Franklin was just released this week from Penn State, but at the time, Penn State had offered me a 4-year scholarship to go and play center for them. And then at the time, the center decided not to go on to the pros and came back for his a 5th year, and it took me out of a 4-year scholarship. They wanted to give me a 1 and 3, which is in the world of football, you walk on your first and you get 3 guaranteed on the backside, and they'd give me a redshirt year so I could get 5 years of education. But I decided that the risk was too great for me to get hurt with no guarantee. Decided the Ivy League route was where I wanted to go. I was lucky enough to be admitted into every Ivy League school. I mean,
Wow.
I got accepted to every one of them, and it came down to Cornell and Harvard, and really the nature of Ithaca, New York, overshadowed the city value of Boston and Harvard, and I went to play at the Big Red. At the time, it was an up and coming program, and a lot of people don't know that when you play Ivy League football, you're actually forced to play in a freshman setting. And so my freshman year of football, I played. Unfortunately, my last game at down in the New York City at Columbia, I got my pec torn out on my right side. When you get caught cheating, you get caught cheating, right? A friend of mine was playing guard. He didn't hear the pickup call. We needed this last drive. It was late in the 4th quarter. Linebacker blitzing. I had a nose tackle in front of me. Snapped the ball, came underneath, caught the nose tackle. Guard missed the call. Linebacker's coming back. Quarterback goes back to pass. He's an open target. So I decided that, well, if we've got a chance, I'm going to at least try to make this block. And he took my right arm and just kept going. And,
Wow.
the left stayed there. And back then there was no modern medicine. I mean, I basically finished the game, don't know how, a lot of adrenaline. There was only, maybe a minute and a half left in the game. Had to be cut out of pads. And then life as I knew it as an athlete ended. When you're damaged goods on any level of collegiate play back in the late 80s, early 90s, you were done. And, it was an impactful time. I mean, I was a big, strong young man. I had 465 on the bench that went down to being able to just bench the bar. And for a long time, trying to rebuild that pectoral muscle, and just never came back. Although, ironically enough, I was offered my senior year, even after not playing. World League was starting at that time, and they had come around and asked if I was interested in trying out and playing in Europe. I declined, and I had an interesting run-in with Danny White when he was the Arizona Rattlers coach for the Arena Football League. I was visiting my brother in Phoenix, sitting in a bar at the near the Phoenix airport, eating a steak, drinking a beer. I was 22 at the time and waiting for my brother to get off work to come meet me. And a bunch of coaches came through and sat down at the end of the bar. And all of a sudden, a guy came by and goes, "Hey, you're not allowed in the bar. You know, and by the way, you're not allowed to drink." And I didn't even think it was talking to me. And he sat down at the end of the bar and he said it even louder, like he was pissed off at me. And I kind of, I'm from New York. I'm like, all right, what's your problem, buddy? Right. And I said, "Are you sure you've got the right guy?" I said, "I'm not a football player." He goes, "What?" I go, "I'm not a football player." I said, "But you're Danny White." And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, well, I'm a football fan. I mean, I played football." And so we got into chatting. And before you know it, he called my old coaches and they had offered me at the time what they would call a good contract to play arena football, which I think at the time they offered me $50,000 for the season, which back in the early '90s was one of the better lineman contracts for them. I turned it down at that time. I was making more money doing anything other than playing football. So yeah, that was the end of my football career. But ironically enough, I always stayed in the fitness field. I love fitness all my life and ended up owning 18 gyms over 2 decades and stayed active. I mean, I'm 55 now. I'm not what I used to be when I was 25 or 30, but I still enjoy, the activity and physical activity and competing. And I think it keeps you young.
Well, that's interesting. When you were kind of going back, you own gyms. That's how I guess arm wrestling came right to being, right? If you own gyms.
No, I didn't get into the gym business until the late '90s.
Mm.
And there were reasons why. And part of that gave me an opportunity to align with a couple of guys that owned some gyms in Syracuse, New York. And they were businessmen, but they weren't really operators. And at the time, I was more of an operator than I was, a business, guru. And so it was just a really good matchup. I had the gift of persuasion, if you will. I was very fluent in the sales and operationals end, and we came to a partnership, and we started to franchise Valley Total Fitnesses, and we started in the Syracuse market. We opened 3. The pinnacle of the Syracuse market was the Carousel Mall, which at the time was the second largest mall in the nation, behind the America's Mall in Minnesota. And then we got into the Albany market, we got into the Binghamton market, and the snow and life decided to push me to the West Coast. And I got out here in 2002, and by 2004, I'd owned a few health clubs, and by 2009, I had bought and sold and operated another dozen out here. So the fitness world's been very good to me. And then 2012, I decided to get away from it all and concentrate on some other endeavors.
When were you doing the arm wrestling?
I didn't get into arm wrestling until probably 2014. I've always thought about it. I thought it would be fun to do. I ended up watching a TV show called The Game of Arms on AMC. I met one of the people on The Game of Arms. Ironically, he is the title character in Tell Me I'm the Greatest. His name is Travis Bagent. And I just started to look. I mean, you have to think about the world of sports in 1992 and the world in sports in 2014. Finding an arm wrestling tournament, you have to have had to walk into maybe a local laundromat, maybe a local bar, possibly look at a board at a grocery store for a flyer. There wasn't the immediate value of being able to search and find arm wrestling. And, fast forward to 2014, when I saw the show, I immediately went on the web and, I downloaded arm wrestling teams in Southern California and found the UAL, who still to this day, the owner of it and I are very, very close friends. And I got involved then. And you learn very fast, no matter how strong you are, no matter how tall you are, or how athletic you may think you can be. Arm wrestling is a very humbling sport, and someone half your size and half your age can humble you in a second.
Wow. And what was your highest level you accomplished in competing in arm wrestling?
I would say a regional pro. Neil, it's the sport itself in America is different because we as Americans work and then arm wrestling is a hobby. The sport of arm wrestling in Europe and other countries is the opposite. Their work is arm wrestling, and the hobbies are the things they do in life outside of arm wrestling. So uniquely enough, I was able to be financially solvent in my life to be able to take arm wrestling on as a hobby and be able to dedicate some time to it. But I think with all of the injuries, I mean, I found out really off of the initial start of arm wrestling that my right side, because of the pec tear, didn't operate the same as my left. And even though my right's my dominant hand, my left was actually a better arm wrestling arm. And then, just like, unfortunately, all my athletic endeavors, I was in a pro match in 2017 or 2018 and doing well on the A side bracket without a loss, and pulled an arm wrestler that was a very accomplished regional pro, not a world champion, but a regional pro, a national level. Was doing very well, and I made an adjustment on the table, and it basically shredded what they call your MCL in your elbow. And after that, I had three options. I could replace it with a cadaver. I could, replace it with material out of my leg, which would have potentially left me lame. Cadaver would potentially have rejection value, or to have it heal naturally and work with it to the best of my ability. And I chose the third. It just seemed like the right selection for me, and that was really, other than at that point, I kind of came to the mindset that I was not going to progress any further in the sport, but I enjoyed it so much that I stayed right with it.
And then the league. I just wanted to kind of get that sports background. That's where that competitive urge comes, right? From athletics.
I would say so. I've been competitive all my life. As funny as this may sound, uniquely as a kid growing up, I was a musician. You may not think that the guy who played football is a musician. I was an All-American trumpet player. I was also
You're an Ivy League guy, so I'm not surprised. So go ahead.
I was also a national chess champion. We won the unrated section in St. Louis, Missouri in '87, my high school, and I played competitive chess for a while. So, competing is something I love to do. I don't do it as an addiction. I do it as a passion. I'm okay to lose, right? It motivates me personally to do better. And I'm not afraid to wish the person who won, the kudos to them, right? I mean, I'm not an angry, competitor in that sense. But I think that helps you when you're an entrepreneur, because you have to have a competitive spirit, right? I mean, you have to win your next business, right?
Yes.
You have to be able to convince the person in front of you that you're the right choice. So I go back to Joe Paterno. Going back to my high school days, I had Joe Paul come to my high school, recruited myself and a couple other players at the time, and it was my junior year of high school. And I had asked him, I said, Coach, I said, I have a question for you. I said, obviously, there's an opportunity here for me to be able to play football on the next level with you at Penn State, but would you rather me not play any sports in lieu of football and just concentrate on football and growth and lifting? And he looked at me and said, absolutely not. He goes, I only recruit people that compete every day of their lives. So when you're not playing football, I want you wrestling. I want you playing basketball. I want you playing golf or running track or playing baseball. He goes, you need to compete 365 days of the year, because when I need you to compete, when the time is now, I need to know that you can go.
So, it's great advice. 365 days a year. That's Greg Sharp for you. And so we appreciate it. You can find information on Greg by going to all his multiple websites. Do you have your own website too?
I don't. Maybe it's the Triple G website where I'm sure that's taken, right? I mean,
no, I will have to look. Triple G official. I don't know. We're going to figure it out. You have to explain why Triple G. What did you think of why Triple G before we end?
Because of Greg. I mean, even though the moniker here is still spelled right, I haven't corrected that. I'm not competitive enough to correct what's on there.
I like the
it's
triple
actually,
G. That's good. That's smart. See, there you go.
yeah.
That's the Ivy League smarts.
I know my name, but I can't spell it on the moniker.
No, but you have Greg and then the two G's at the end. That makes three G's. I get it now. I didn't get it before.
There you
So
go.
the Triple G podcast. All right. Sounds good. We'll talk soon, Greg. That was a special
Appreciate you.
stop.